High. Shout out to Yahuwah and Yahusha. All praise to the Most High. Yahuwah, we want to thank you, Father. Total Rabbah, Father, for another prayer day, Yahuwah. Oh, Total Rabbah, Father, for your blessings, Yahuwah. Cool. Man, Most High, you're wonderful, Yahuwah. You're wonderful, you're holy, Yahuwah. Total Rabbah, Yahusha. You're through and your mercy endure forever. At this time of the Arel, Father, the time of the evening oblation, oh Most High, over here. We just want to say Total Rabbah to you, Father, for you are so through to us, Father. You show kindness to Yaakov and mercy to Yisrael, Father. Total Rabbah, Yahuwah. For you are wonderful in every way, beautiful in every aspect. You're magnanimous in all your deeds and perfect in every way. Terrible to the enemy. Mighty to save. Mighty to save. Total Rabbah, Yahuwah. For you are through and your mercy endure forever. Oh, Most High, Alu of Yasharah, Alu of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, Alu of our forefathers, our ancestors. Oh, Yahuwah, we pray, Father, oh, according to your tender mercies, Father, that you be in the midst of this discussion, be in the midst of this word, Father. Be in the midst of this lesson, be in the midst of this reading, Yahuwah. Let it be your words, Adonai Yahusha. Let it be your words, Adon Yahusha. Let it be your words, Father. That everything that you want to be stated, that it may be stated. That everything that you want to be brought out, that it may be brought out. That everything that you want to be revealed, that it may be revealed, oh Yahuwah, to your people, Father. Oh, Most High. Oh, Yahuwah, give us eyes to see and ears to hear, Father, what you want to convey to us, Father. Give us eyes to see and ears to hear what you want to reveal to us out of need. Oh, Yahuwah. Oh, Father, may these words and these teachings drop down like rain on fertile ground, Father. That it may bring forth fruit in abundance, hallelujah. Total Rabbah, Yahuwah. Total Rabbah for blessing us, Yahuwah. Blessing us to be alive in the land of the living, Father. Total Rabbah for your Ruach, Yahuwah. For your presence. Total Rabbah for the indwelling of the Ruach HaKodesh, Father. For giving your people understanding. Total Rabbah for the wisdom and understanding. And the knowledge and the revelation, Father. Total Rabbah for the Chachma, O Most High. For the Banah, Total Rabbah, Yahuwah. For the Tushiyah, Father. Oh, Total Rabbah, Yahusha. You're so through to your people, Father. You're so through to your children, Yahuwah. Oh, Father, Baruch this discussion, Yahuwah. Baruch this lesson, Father. That everything that you want to be brought out may be brought out. That everything that you want to be stated, that it may be stated, Father. Baruch every comment out of the Yahusha. I pray for a special level of barakah upon everyone who's listening in, who are called by your name, Father. Those who are called by your name, who's listening in, Father. I pray for a special level of barakah upon them, Father. Upon their houses, Father. That you may baruch them in every way, in their lives and their souls. That they may quench their souls as they thirst for you, Father. As they thirst for righteousness, Adonai. Toda Rabbah Yahuwah. Toda Rabbah Yahusha. All praises to the Most High. Alu of Yasharah. Oh, Toda Rabbah, O Most High. All praises to Yahuwah, Alu of Yasharah. May it be so and may be established in Yahusha's name. May it be so and may be established. All praise to the Most High. Shalom, shalom. What's going on? All praise to Yahuwah. Shout out to Yahuwah and Yahusha. Hey, Olam Hudim to Yahuwah and Yahusha. Olam Hudim la Yahuwah la Yahusha HaMashiach. I am Mispar Hudim la Malek Musha. Ula Malek Yahusha. Kefel Hudim la Malka Kayil. Ula Malka Yada. Kefel Hudim la Roshaluf Yithro. Ula Rosha As Yeshayahu. Kefel Hudim. La Hagabira Malaka Deborah, hallelujah. La Gabira O, Ula Alufim, hallelujah. Kefel Hudim, La Hamushalim, Ula Hamushala Ot, hallelujah. Special Kefel Hudim, La Ishti, to my Isha. Ahmed Yahoo, hallelujah, hallelujah. Told out to the Most High for her. Told out to the Most High for her. Hudim, La Sargon, Ula Bakir Sargon, Sarganim, La Sarganim, Ula Bakir Sarganim, Hudim, Bakir Ezerot, Le Sarar Ezerot, Ubakir Ezerot, Hudim, Le Ya'asim, Hudim, Le Ha Alufim, Ula Ha'ima Yot, Hudim, Hudim, La Hadarim, Ula Hadarot, Hudim, who else? Hudim, I feel like I'm missing some. Man, I'm missing. Hadarim, Hadarot, Saganim, Bakir Saganim, Yasin, the Hadarim, okay.
To prosper and not to harm you. And even though you strayed, my love chased after you.
Oh, Hudim.
With the life I gave
To the Yakum, Yamanim, Yakuma.
you were too far.
To the Bakir Yakum, Yamanim, Bakir Yakuma.
For you my eyes did
Shalom Aleichem. Lakol HaMishpakah.
my arms you find.
Shalom Aleichem. Lakol HaMishpakah. Hallelujah.
Remain like a child.
All praise to the Most High.
Come ye children, hearken unto me. Let me teach you my ways. He said, come ye children, hearken unto me. Will you obey, hear the Father speak? Come ye children, hearken unto me. Let me teach you my ways. He said, come ye children, hearken unto me. Will you obey, hear the Father speak? I left the 99 to save you. Looked at all of your sins and still forgave you. All I want is for you to obey and cleave to every word I say. Come ye children, hearken unto me. Let me teach you my ways. He said, come ye children, hearken unto me. Will you obey, hear the Father speak? Hear the Father speak. Hear the Father speak.
Got my playlist going. Man, hold up. Yehuda be praised. Let's see who I see here. Kun Rakam Yahu, shalom
He
to you.
said,
Holy One seen and shalom and barakot. Ima Yashayahu, Hudim.
to prosper and not to harm you.
Oh snap, hold on. Let me make sure y'all can hear this.
And even though you strayed, my love chased after you. With the life I gave,
Testing, all right.
Christ for you.
Ima Yashayahu, Hudim to
You
you.
were too far
Kun
from
Rakam
my
Yahu,
feet.
shalom Hudim.
For
Dante
you
Stewart,
my
shalom,
eyes
Bob.
did
Shalom.
see.
Hey Dante, I'm gonna follow up with you after this,
My
okay?
arms you
I'm
find.
gonna get with you after this. Shamar and Shakar, shalom and barakot, y'all. Mr. LW Ringo, shalom and blessings. S. McCorkle, shalom, shalom to you. Nakama Yahoo, shalom and barakot. Raphael, hey, I'm gonna follow with you right now. Actually, on what you had brought up last week. I just realized who you were. I just realized who you are. I didn't know you by name, but much all about to you, fam. Much all about. Malachi Hiluwa, shalom, shalom. Nakama Yahoo, shalom, Barakot. Yirmiyahu and Shama Yahoo, shalom and blessings. Emunah, shalom. Dawuda Saba Yahoo, shalom, Barakot. Alright, y'all, let's get started. Come on and hearken unto the Most High. Come on, children of the Most High. Children of Yahuwah. Shema, Shema, hear and do. All right, y'all. I was having some fun. Y'all know I be on it, man. I be on that Baraka Yahoo and Zamar and Gaal, man. I be on it. I'll pray to the Most High. All right, y'all. Shalom, shalom. Welcome to the Rebirth ATX Prep Day podcast. It is Prep Day. Prep Day is the day before Shabbat. It was a custom of our people to prepare for Shabbat, not just go into Shabbat without no proper preparation. And I know that when we think preparation, we think physically, like making sure we have food, making sure we have our clothes ironed. That's true as well. But also you want to prepare yourself ruachally before you go before the presence of the Most High to rest in Him on Shabbat. And one of the ways to do that is to go into topics surrounding Him, go into things surrounding Yahuwah, to talk about Yahuwah, to go into the principles of the Most High, study His Word, study some of the records of our ancestors that they pinned down, which is what we're doing right now with the book of Enoch, or the book of Enoch. So we're going to keep it going. We're going to keep it flowing, all right? So let's see here. Oh, yeah, I did want to follow up. So y'all remember when last week, a lot of y'all were here last week, when Raphael asked about the why do we have 13 months in the calendar? This is just a follow-up from last week. Or should we have 13 months in the calendar, being that we had 2 moons in one of the month, 2 new moons in 1 month? So I wanted to address that because I told y'all I told y'all I was gonna get back on that because I just didn't really. We were ending and I didn't really think it through. But then I saw that that y'all did remind me we did have 13 months in the last year's calendar. I don't know about this year because I didn't count, but I know last year's calendar we had 13 months. So let me tell y'all why I don't really look at that. I didn't really notice that really. So to be able to bring that out, because we don't look at that, y'all. Okay. There's nothing in Torah that says you have to have 12 months in a year. There's nothing in the scriptures that requires 12 months in a year. So we don't worry about that. We don't even look at that. This is all that we look at when we calculating the appointed times of the Most High. Y'all, we look at when is the new year? When is the new moon? And then we go from there. All we need to know, listen, y'all, to calculate the appointed times of the Most High, don't make it complicated. All you need to know is when is the first month of the year. If you know when the first month of the year is, then you'll know all the feast days, because then you'll know when Pesach is. It's the 14th, the evening of the 14th day of the first month, right? You'll know when all the feast days are. You'll know when unleavened bread is. You'll know when all the feast days that are associated with the moon, you'll know when they are once you get the first month of the year down. Every new moon is the full moon. That's every new moon. So if there's 13 new moons before the new year, if there's 12 new moons before the new year, that don't concern us. As long as we got the new year down, you through. It don't specify how many months it has to be in a year in the scriptures. There's no like Torah surrounding that. So what happens is that some years you get 12 new moons before the new year. Some years you get 13 new moons before the new year. Every now and then you get 13 new moons before the new year. There is no such thing as 2 new moons in 1 month because the moon is synonymous with the month. That's why it's called a moon. It's synonymous with the month. Every new moon is a new month. So there will never be 2 new moons in 1 month. But what Raphael was referring to, I'm pretty sure he was referring to how in the Gregorian calendar, there were 2 new moons in one of the months. I can't remember. We had a long month in one of the Gregorian months. But as far as the biblical calendar, there's never going to be 2 new moons in 1 month because the new moon equates to a new month. I hope that makes sense. So, yeah, I just wanted to, I apologize. I should have thought it through a little bit more. But I wanted to follow up, make sure I answered that. So y'all have clarity on that. But all praise to the Most High. And if y'all have any further questions on that, you can always follow up with me. Y'all can always hit me up, email me, instant message, or whatever. A lot of y'all got my number, you know what I'm saying? You can just call me, a lot of y'all. Oh, y'all already know. Anyway, all praise to the Most High. But any other questions, man, bring them out. You know, I love it. I love that type of stuff, y'all. I love that type of stuff. You have put in me a great desire for those things. So I always love it when I see other people who have a great desire for those things. I notice most of y'all, that's why y'all are on here. Y'all have a great desire, a great passion for the things of the Most High, for the word, for the mysteries of Yahuwah, the mysteries of the Shamaim, and the things that he reveals to his set apart people. I love it, y'all. I'm all the way with it. So don't think you bothering me or nothing like that. Y'all can always hit me up on stuff like that. Or post them in here. But all right. Nevertheless, let's keep it going. Moving on. But now we're moving on. It's shifting to a different thing now. And so we saw a little bit of that last week. The last chapter we read in chapter 85. We'll recap chapter 85. We'll recap that. We're going to read through chapter 89. It's a very short chapter 85, so we'll recap it again. But Yahuwah started revealing these dreams to Enoch, man. These visions and dreams. And so that's what we're going to read about today. And kind of go from there. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, all right. Let's see here. All right. Okay, through Raphael. Okay, all praise to the Most High. I see you still on here. Praise Yahuwah. Okay, Yirmiyahu and Shemayahu, they got it. He said that makes sense. Cody Wansina said, yes, when I first came into the awakening, there was teachers out there keeping the 13-month. Told I were about for the truth. Hallelujah. Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. Azariah Yasharal said, been chewing on Proverbs all week. All praise to the Most High. We're going to get into that on Yom Shani, Most High willing, during the Midrash. But all right, let's go to, we're going to start with chapter 86, but what we're going to do, technically we're going to start with chapter 85 because we're going to recap chapter 85 first. So let's get it. All right, that's chapter 86. So let's recap chapter 85. Let's see. All right, let's make sure we got this thing right here. Let's see. Testing. All right. So this was a dream. We're looking at a dream, and so We covered this last week. We're going to read it again. Verse 1 is a very short chapter. And after this, I saw another dream, and I will show the whole dream to thee, my son. And Enoch lifted up his voice and spake to his son Methuselah. To thee, my son, will I speak. Hear my words. Incline thine ear to the dream vision of thy father. Before I took thy mother Edna, I saw in a vision on my bed, and behold, a bull came forth from the eretz, and that bull was white, and after it came forth the heifer. And along with this latter came forth 2 bulls, one of them black, the other red, and that black bull gored the red one and pursued him over the eretz. All right, so if you look at other versions, if you look at like the Sefer version, it'll say heifer. Let's see, I can show y'all. Let's look at that version. Let's see. Cause I like the way that reads better. It'll kind of make sense. I don't know the meaning of this dream. At least a general understanding of what this dream actually means. Let's look at the Sefer version. Hopefully y'all can read it. The words are a little small. Let me try to see if I can make them a little bit bigger so y'all can see it on the screen. Let's see here. All right, well, that's the biggest it's going to get, so let's just try it out. We're going to try it out, Mr. Parker. That ain't no full screen, but, you know, we're going to do the best. It's the best. Looks like it's the best I can do right now. But, all right, let's look at it. It says, after this, I saw it. This is the Sefer version. This is a Sefer app I'm using on my computer. But if y'all don't have a Sefer, it's pretty through. They got an app you can get on your phone that I have that's pretty through. It costs money. They got a free version, but I think you got to do the one that costs money to get Enoch on there. It says, after this I saw another dream and explained it all to you. My son Enoch arose and said to his son Methuselah, to you, my son, will I speak. Hear my word and incline your ear to the visionary dream of your father. Before I married your mother, Edna, I saw a vision on my bed. And behold, a cow sprung forth from the earth. So as y'all see, this is different language than the other version that says a bull. You know, as you see right here, it says, behold, a bull came forth from the earth. But it says a bull came forth from the earth on this version. But if you go back to the Sefer, it says, and behold, a cow sprung forth from the earth. So, you know, just a little bit different language. It does make a difference because, you know, biblically speaking, a bull is different than a cow or an oxen as far as ruachally and the symbolism of it. And so it says, behold, a cow sprung forth from the earth, and this cow was white. Afterwards, a female heifer sprung forth. Now, if you look at the other version, it'll say, it does say a heifer, okay. But it says, came forth 2 bulls, one of them black and the other red. But look what this says. It says, afterwards a heifer sprung forth, and with it another heifer. The one was black and one was red. So the Sefer is saying that the black and red were not bulls, but they were heifers, which is it's a difference here. That's the reason why I'm bringing this up. It says, the black heifer then struck the red one and pursued it over the eretz. From that period, I could see nothing more of the red heifer, but the black one increased in bulk. And the female heifer came with him. And after this, I saw that many cows proceeded forth, resembling him and following after him. The first female young one also went out in the presence of the first cow and sought the red heifer, but found him not. Okay. All right. So, basically, this vision is about Cain and Abel. Pretty sure this is about Cain and Abel. So Yahuwah's giving these visions and these dreams that's going through like the history of the Kodesh seed, the history of mankind in a sense. And we'll see this as we keep reading in the following chapters. But, it starts off with, Adam and Kowad, and it goes into Cain and Abel when it talks about how the black heifer then struck the red one, okay? The cow that sprung forth from the Eretz represents Adam, okay? When it says, and this cow was white, I submit is really the symbolism. It's about the cow being Kodesh, the cow being pure. That's the symbolism of white, pure, Kodesh, etc., etc. The Hebrew word for white is Laban. I think it's spelled Lamed Ben Nun. Let me make sure. Yeah, Lamed Ben Nun. I gotta show y'all this because this is really significant. I want y'all to see something regarding this word. So let me pull it up on the screen. The Hebrew word for white is Laban, or in Hebraically speaking, Laban or Laban is how they saying it's pronounced in the Strongs. Laban. Let's see. Okay. And I'll just explain it while I'm pulling it up on the screen at the same time. So with Laban, you get two Hebrew words in there, I submit. And it's just something I just noticed. You get the word leb, which is the Hebrew word for heart. So with Laban, you get the word leb. Man. Because it says the finder is using it. Doggone. What does that mean? We're going to force eject it. There we go. You got the word leb, which is the Hebrew word for heart. And then you got the word ben in there, which is the Hebrew word for son. Okay, white, Laban. And so, Laban, you basically have if you look at it as a compound word, you have the word heart and son in there. It's about turning the hearts of the sons. It's about the hearts of the sons, y'all. Laban, white. It's about the turning the hearts of the sons. It's about the heart of the sons. Laban means to purify, to be pure, to be white. That's the symbolism of white, y'all. That's why you'll see the scriptures talk about how people were dressed in all white, in linen. You see different, symbolism surrounding white meaning pure. You even see that in Psalms. Look at this. If y'all, I still kind of I don't know about that. Psalm 51, one of the most famous Psalms. Look at right here. Here it goes, verse 7. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be what? Whiter than snow. There you go. That's not saying that Melech Dawid was white, was a white guy. No, that's the symbolism of being pure, being clean. That's the scriptural understanding, y'all. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. That's meaning that he will be pure. He'll be righteous. If you know, most of y'all are familiar with Psalm 51. Many of y'all are familiar with Psalm 51. It's about being purged from the sins, cleansed from all iniquities. That's the understanding of Psalms 51. And so keeping all that in mind, that's what we see here when we're talking about how that first cow was sprung forth, and the cow was white. Okay, it says bull in the other version I'm reading, but I'll submit that's not the better understanding. Is it was a cow, not a bull, like a cow, because a bull, is more of a negative connotation in the scriptures. You got a difference between a bull and an ox, or a cow, a heifer, and different things like that. So I submit that's why in the King James and in the Sephra, it's a cow that sprung forth from the arrest. The cow was white, meaning the cow, he was pure at first. He was righteous, and we know that when you read about Adam. It says afterwards a female heifer sprung forth. So we know that's Kawah, right? Eve with it another heifer. The one was black and one was red. And so basically you had the heifer brought forth, the female, and with it now you had children. One was black and one was red. I hope y'all kind of following it now. So the black and the red one, that's how you get Cain and Abel. These were the children of Adam and Kawah. We know that Adam and Kawah did not bring forth children according to Torah until after they sinned. So maybe that's why the children were not white. Maybe that's why one was black, one was red. I don't know. But it says the black heifer then struck the red one and pursued it over the earth. So that goes into the seed of Cain versus Abel. Now you have this thing about the seed of Cain. It says from that period I could see nothing more of the red heifer, but the black one increased in bulk, and a female heifer came with him. After this I saw that many cows proceeded forth, resembling him, and following after him. So basically then you have many have proceeded forth, and in the wickedness on the earth. That's probably what the best way to look at that. The first female young one also went out in the presence of the first cow and sought the red heifer, but found him not. Yeah. All right. Now we're going to go on to chapter 86. So I submit chapter 85, the interpretation of that dream, it was surrounding around the history of mankind. Adam and Kawah, Adam and Eve, and then how they brought forth seed, which was Cain and Abel, and Cain struck Abel. He killed Abel. Okay. And then you had this thing with they talk about the descendants of Seth. Let's just look at look at this a little bit. It'll make more sense because I'm trying to explain it, but sometimes it's easier just to show y'all in the scriptures. All right. It says, now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I've acquired a man from Yahuwah. She bore again this time his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep. That's a big thing. It's a big deal because that's always considered, the shepherds were, throughout the scriptures, looked at those to be righteous. Melech talked about this before as well, how many of Yahuwah's Kodesh people, his righteous people, they were shepherds. So you saw King David was a shepherd at first before he started his ministry. Yaakov, we know, was a shepherd, a keeper of sheep. The list goes on and on and on. Even Yosef was a keeper of sheep. He kept the sheep of his father and kind of oversaw that in a sense. Moshe, before Moshe went out and did his ministry, he had to flee from Mitzrayim, flee from Egypt. And he did what? He worked under Yithro and kept the sheep of Yithro. The list goes on and on and on. All right, so we see Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground of Yahuwah. Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat. And Yahuwah respected Abel and his offering, but he did not respect Cain and his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. So Yahuwah said to Cain, why are you angry? And why has your countenance fallen? And look what this says, because I know a lot of people, when we read about Cain and Abel, the question is, why did Yahuwah not receive Cain's offering? Why did Yahuwah respect and receive and accept Abel's offering, but did not receive, did not receive or respect Abel's offering? Did I say that right? Let me say it. I said it wrong. Why did Yahuwah receive Abel's? Cain killed Abel. Yeah, why did Yahuwah receive Abel's offering but did not receive Cain's offering? Sorry, y'all. I'm confusing myself. Why did Yahuwah receive Abel's offering but did not receive Cain? And many people were like, well, maybe it's because, Abel offered up sheep. He offered up blood. Cain didn't. But I think this is giving you the answer right here in the scriptures of why. Yahuwah said to Cain, why are you angry and why has your countenance fallen? Look what Yahuwah says here. He says, if you do well, will you not be accepted? You notice Yahuwah didn't say, if you would have offered up sheep like Abel did, would you not be accepted? Yahuwah didn't say that. He said, if you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it. That was Yahuwah's response to Cain being angry at Abel because Yahuwah received Abel's offering. Yahuwah said, hey, what are you tripping for? Why are you angry? In other words, if you do right, your offering will be accepted. So in other words, what this was showing, this is one of the issues that Yasharel had throughout history, is that we would be moving in all kind of iniquity, all kind of sin, all kind of rebellion, and then go to the altar, offer up sacrifices, and think we through. Even though while we're offering up all those sacrifices, we're going back right after that, and we have all kind of iniquity, all kind of sin, blood on our hands. The list goes on and on and on. Moving in jealousy, envy, rebellion, wickedness, all these things. But we think because we went to the altar and offered up the sacrifices that Yahuwah said to offer up, that we just stoob. And so this is all throughout history that we move, Yasharel moved like this. So what would happen is that then Yahuwah would not receive or accept the offering. Why? Because we're offering up offerings to Yahuwah, but our actions ain't lined up with the offering. Our actions is full of sin, iniquity, and rebellion, y'all. It's just like this. Think about this. Most of us, or many of us, know that praise and worship is a form of a sacrifice to the Most High. Worship is a form of an offering. Is Yahuwah going to receive your offering of praise and worship, you worshiping the Most High, if just the day before that you committed adultery, you were moving in abominations, sin, iniquity, and rebellion just the night before? You didn't repent for none of that. You still fully moving in that. and then you go to Shabbat service, you go into the assembly, go into the main area and be screaming, crying, and praising the Most High. Do you think Yahuwah is going to receive that? Actually, it'd be better for you not to do it if you're moving like that. The reason I submit why the reason why Cain's offering was not accepted is because he was not moving right. His actions did not align with the offering. The offering is supposed to symbolize your obedience to Yahuwah. It's supposed to symbolize you giving yourself to Yahuwah. And so if you're not doing that, but you're giving an offering, your offering is in vain. Don't go to Shabbat service dancing, screaming, and you in all kind of hidden iniquity and hidden darkness. Because 9 times out of 10, the Most High is not going to accept it. You're doing it in vain. That was the problem that King Saul had. King Saul was moving in all this rebellion to Yahuwah, but he thought he was through because he kept offering up sacrifices. And that's when the famous scripture where Yahuwah spoke through prophet Samuel and told King Saul, hey, man. What did he say? He said, obedience is better than sacrifice. That's why the scripture said that. That's why he told him obedience is better than sacrifice. That was what Abel, I submit what Abel did that caused him to that Cain did, that caused his offering not to be received. All right, anyway. Nevertheless, let's keep going. So, now Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and killed him. Okay. All right. So that's what what that vision was about. This was dealing with their ancestors, with Enoch and Methuselah's ancestors. Was a dream he had. All right. So it's basically going into that, I submit. So now, and you look at this. This is a different Enoch, though, but I thought that is different. Interesting. It says, Yahuwah said to Cain, where is Abel, your brother? He said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are cursed from the Eretz, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. A fugitive and a vagabond, you shall be on the Eretz. And Cain said to Yahuwah, my punishment is greater than I could bear. Surely you have driven me out this day from the face of the ground. I shall be hidden from your face. I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond on the Eretz. And it will happen that anyone who finds me will kill me. And Yahuwah said to him, therefore, whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And Yahuwah said, set a mark on Cain, lest anyone finding him should kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of Yahuwah and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife. She conceived and bore Enoch, which is interesting. That's interesting right there. But that's a different Enoch. That's a different Enoch. He built a city and he called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. All right. So now it goes through now it goes through the lineages right after this. That's why it was pretty interesting. So, Enoch was born Arad. Arad begot Mahu Yahel. Mahu begot Methushael. Methushael begot Lamech. All right. Then you got Lamech took for himself 2 wives. The name of Ada, the name of the second Zillah. Okay. Jubal goes to the father of all those who play the harp and the flute. It goes through these different lineages. All right. Lamech said to his wives, "77-fold. Adam knew his wife again. She bore a son and named him Seth." Okay, there we go. All right. So Adam knew his wife again. She bore a son named Seth. For Yahuwah has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. And now we got this situation with Seth. It says, and as for Seth, to him also a son was born, and he named him Enoch. The men began to call on the name of Yahuwah. So that's when, and we'll get, that's when you got the seed of Seth that people talk about. All right. And so then you go to chapter 5, then it goes into the genealogies of Adam. Okay. And so Adam lived 130 years and begot a son in his own likeness, after his image, and named him Seth. So we're going to look at this. Because remember, according to the vision, Adam was the white cow, okay? So, but they had the black and the red heifer. The black one killed the red one. That was Cain killing Abel. And so then you have this other seed that was brought forth, another seed, and his name was Seth. And he had sons and daughters, and I submit that this seed of Seth is what brought forth this different lineage of this Kodesh lineage. Okay, it's the seed of Seth where you get the Kodesh lineage, all right? So you got Enoch, okay, and then Enoch lived, you got Canaan, okay, you got Canaan. It goes on to Mahalalel, it goes on to Jared, Mahalalel. Then you keep going down to the different lineages, the different names of the fathers. Oh, my bad. I missed the Enoch. Here it goes right here. 800, then Jared lived 100 and begot Enoch. So this is the Enoch that we're reading who wrote the book of Enoch in verse 18. Enoch was a descendant of Seth, y'all. So this is this Kodesh lineage that Yahuwah set apart after Abel was killed. The seed of Cain is still around, but the Kodesh seed was brought forth through Seth. So you got Jared lived 100 and then begot Enoch. After he begot Enoch, Jared lived 800 years, had sons and daughters for all the days of Jared. And then Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. And so the dream we're reading about was something that Enoch was sharing to his son Methuselah. You see what I'm saying? Hope this is starting to add up now more, because you see how this lines up with the scriptures. He begot Methuselah. Enoch walked with the Lord 300 years and had sons and daughters. All the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with the Lord, and he was not, for Lua took him. So it's showing you Enoch was special. Then Methuselah lived 800 years and begot Lamech. This is a different Lamech than before, than in the previous chapter. They use a lot of the same names, but his name was Lamech. After he begot Lamech, Methuselah lived 708 years, 782 years, had sons and daughters. All the days of Methuselah, 969 years, and he died. So, Methuselah lived longer than anybody else, at least recorded, at least in the scriptures, as far as who was recorded their lifespans. Lamech lived 182 years, had a son. He called his name Noah, saying, "This one will comfort us concerning our work and the toil of our hands." And so as you see, then here comes Noah. Okay. We'll leave it at that. All right. Now we're going to continue in the dream. All right. So let's see. What is this? Chapter 85. Let's go to chapter 86 now. All right. So let's look at it. Let's look at it in one more time. And let's look at this one more time in the Sefer. All right. After this, I saw another dream, because I think as we read it in the scriptures, it'll make more sense now. After this, I saw another dream, explained it all to you. My son Enoch arose and said to his son Methuselah, "To you, my son, will I speak. Hear my word and incline your ear to the visionary dream of your father. Before I married your mother Edna, I saw a vision on my bed, and behold, a cow sprung forth from the earth. And this cow was white." So I submit that's Adam, okay? Because he was pure, he was righteous. Afterwards, a female heifer sprung forth, and with it another heifer. The one was black and the one was red. Okay, so then you had the female that was brought forth. That was Eve. She was brought forth out of man, and then through Eve, you had another heifer, which were youngest, which were Cain and Abel, the black and the red one. The black heifer then struck the red one and pursued it over the Eretz. Okay, so that was Cain struck Abel. From that period, I could see nothing more of the red heifer, but the black one increased in bulk, and the female heifer came with him. And after this, I saw that many cows proceeded forth, resembling him and following after him. The first female young one also went out in the presence of the first cow. and sought the red heifer, but found him not. And she lamented with a great lamentation while she was seeking him. So this is letting you know, I submit, it's probably talking about Eve, the first female young one was probably talking about Eve. Went out in the presence of the first cow and sought the red heifer, but found him not. So this is showing that she was Eve was mourning after Abel, after he was killed. She was weeping and mourning in lamentation after Abel. And we saw that in the scriptures that we just read. So then it says, then I looked until that first cow came to her, for which time she became silent and ceased to lament. And why is that? Look at this. Afterwards, she calved another white cow, y'all. That's Seth. Now is this making sense? Because when you read in Genesis 4, I believe it's Bereshit chapter 4, after she had Seth replaced Abel, and it was like she was comforted from the mourning now. She was through now. She was praising the Most High. She had someone to replace Abel. It was Seth. And remember, it said that Seth was after the likeness of Abel. I don't think y'all. Let me just real quick. Here it goes. Verse 25, it says, and Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and named him Seth. For Elohim has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. Okay. So this is just kind of showing you that was the replacement. And as for Seth, to him also a son was born, etc., etc. But, all right. And it also talks about how he was in the image and likeness of Adam. Let's see. I think it's right here. No, I don't say it right here. I might have had a mistake and mixed up with something else. Let me make sure. Thought I'm pretty sure. Yeah, here you go. Yeah, I don't know how I missed that. But yeah, look at here in verse 3. Here it goes. Yeah, so here it goes. Genesis 5, verse 3. And Adam lived 130 years and begot a son in his own likeness, after his image, and named him Seth. Okay? So that's why when you read here, it says afterwards she calved another white cow. Because remember, Adam was the white cow in verse 1. It shows you right here. And behold, a cow sprung forth from the earth, and this cow was white. So this is showing you that this other white cow, that's Seth, because according to Torah, Seth was in the likeness of Adam, after his image. Seth was in the likeness of Adam and after his image, y'all. All right. So this makes it very clear to me that this whole dream is about Cain and Abel, Adam and Kawah. All right, anyway, let's keep going. And again, calved many cows and black heifers. In my sleep also I perceived a white bull, which in like manner grew and became a large white bull. After him many white cows came forth, resembling him, and they began to calve many white cows, which resembled them and followed each other. And so, and that's probably referring to the Kodesh seed, okay, where Enoch had came from. Enoch is talking to his son Methuselah. This is going into the Kodesh seed and their Kodesh bloodline. All right. Now we're in 86. says, and again I saw with my eyes as I slept, and I saw the Shamaim above, and behold, a star fell from the Shamaim. All right. So we know that's a fallen one, because we know the stars represent in the Shamaim represent the Malakim, or angels. So you got a fallen star that fell from the Shamaim. That's a fallen angel, or a fallen Malakim. And it arose and eat and pastured among those oxen. So you got this fallen one that rose and it fell from the Shamaim. Now it's amongst the people. And after that I saw the large and the black oxen, and behold, they all changed their stalls and pastures and their cattle, and began to live with each other. And again I saw in the vision, and looked towards the Shamaim, and behold, I saw many stars descend and cast themselves down from the Shamaim to that first star. So who knows? Maybe that first star was Hasatan. Maybe that first star was Hasatan. And now when they saw the many stars falling, maybe that's referring to all the fallen ones that fell and started laying with the woman that we read about in the beginning of the Hanuk, in the beginning of the book of Enoch. It says, many stars descend and cast themselves down from the Shamaim to that first star, and they became bulls amongst those cattle, and pastured with them amongst them. That goes in like the wheat and the tares, how you got the wicked and the wicked seed, right? Laboring amongst the righteous. You see what I'm saying? And then it says, and I looked at them and saw, and behold, they all let out their privy members like horses, and began to cover the cows of the oxen. And they all became pregnant and bare elephants, camels, and asses. So that's donkeys. It's called in Old English asses. And so, nevertheless, so what this is saying is that I looked at them and saw, and behold, they all let out their privy members like horses, and began to cover the cows of the oxen. So what this is talking about, this is showing you, this is referring to the fallen ones. It's referring to the fallen Malachim that came down and laid with the people, with the daughters of men. And then it says they all became pregnant and bare this different seed. That's why it says they all became pregnant and bare elephants, camels, and asses. Okay. These are all unclean animals. These are all, beasts of the field. These all represent the other nations. The beasts of the field, elephants, camels, donkeys, so on and so forth. And all the oxen feared them and were affrighted at them, and began to bite with their teeth, and to devour and to gore with their horns. So what this is saying, basically, the best way to put this is that all the oxen feared this new seed that was brought forth from the fallen stars that mixed with the people. Okay. This is what happened. This is going through the history of mankind. And they began to moreover to devour those oxen. And behold, all the children of the Eretz began to tremble and quake before them, and to flee from them. So, the sun going down. So, when it says that right here, I want to kind of move it slowly with this part, because I understand what it's saying. It says, and all the oxen feared them and were affrighted at them. At who? They feared the seed of the fallen ones that was produced from them mixing with mankind. When it says, and began to bite with their teeth and to devour, I submit that's actually referring to the elephants, the camels, and the asses. That's what they were afraid of, because this seed that was brought forth, this wicked seed, began to bite with their teeth and to devour and to gore with their horns. And it says, and they began moreover to devour those oxen. See, and behold, all the children of the earth began to tremble and quake before them and to flee from them. All right. Then it says, and again, I saw how they began to gore each other and to devour each other. And the earth began to cry aloud. And I raised mine eyes again to the Shamaim. And I saw in the vision, and behold, there came forth from the Shamaim beings who were like white men. Oh, snap. All right. So that's why I wanted to bring that at the beginning, because it says he saw these beings that were like white men. In other words, they were like, they resembled the righteous. They were like Kodesh, but that's what they saw. They were pure. They were like white men, the pure. This ain't about no race or anything like that. Then it says, and 4 went forth from that place, and 3 with them. Okay. And 4 went forth from them, 3 with them. And those 3 that had last come forth grasped me by my hand and took me up away from the generations of the Arets, and raised me up to a lofty place, and showed me a tower raised high above the Arets, and all the hills were lower. And one said unto me, Remain here till thou seest everything that befalls those elephants, camels, and asses, and the stars and the oxen, and all of them. Man, all right. So then you had Enoch was taken up on the tower, and that was a Malak. They said that was like a white man. It was a Malak. Okay. Told him, watch, and I'm gonna show you what's gonna befall all those animals, including the fallen stars, the fallen Malachim, and the oxen that they laid with. All right. Chapter 88. I saw one of those four who had come forth first, and he sees that first star. So one of those four, that's referring to the ones that were like white men. These are Malachim. These are pure ones, righteous ones, Kodesh ones, okay? They had come, I saw one of those four who had come forth first, and he sees that first star, which had fallen from the Shamaim and bound it hand and foot and cast it into an abyss. Now that abyss was narrow and deep and horrible and dark. And one of them drew a sword. That's one of the Kodesh ones, the white ones. Drew a sword and gave it to those elephants and camels and asses. Then they began to smite each other, and the whole earth quaked because of them. And I was beholding in the vision, lo, one of those four who had come forth stoned them, from the Shamaim, and gathered and took all the great stars, whose privy members were like those of horses, and bound them all hand and foot, and cast them in an abyss of the Arets. Y'all, that's wild. Because what that reminds me of is in the book of Zechariah. Okay. The book of Zechariah is this concept of the four craftsmen. Let's look at this. Zechariah chapter 1. Let's see here. Look at this, y'all. Verse 20 at the end. It says, Then Yahuwah showed me four craftsmen. Okay. And I said, what are these coming to do? Look what it says. So he said, these are the horns that scattered Judah so that no one could lift up his head. But the craftsmen are coming to terrify them, to cast out the horns of the nations that lifted up their horn against the land of Yehuda, to scatter it. Y'all, man, look at here. That's very interesting. Very interesting. That you had these craftsmen, there were four of them who were set apart to subdue the enemies of Yahuwah's people, to terrify them. And that's what the concept was here with these four Malachim. Look, he said, and I saw one of these four. He said, I saw in a vision, and behold, let's see here. And behold, there came forth from the Shamaim beings who were like white men. And four went forth from that place, and three with them. Okay. And then when you keep reading, you'll see that they was, they took them fallen ones, and they had whooped all of them and bound them up and cast them into the abyss of the Arets. All right. All right. So, let's see here. And look at this. Look in the book of Revelation. So you also had this concept in the book of Revelation. Chapter 6 around the 4 horsemen. And remember that it talks about these fallen ones were like horses. Their privy members were like horses. It says, now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying with a voice like thunder, come and see. So could these 4 living creatures be associated with these 4 pure ones that was referred to in Enoch? It says that I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him. And he went out, what? Conquering and to conquer. And he opened the second seal. I heard the second living creature saying, come and see. Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take shalom from the Eretz, and that people should kill one another. Look, this is it. And there was given to him a great sword. This is it, y'all. Because that's exactly what was mentioned in Enoch. Look what it says. Look what it says what these 4 ones did. I saw one of those 4 who had come forth first. He seized that first star which had fallen from, bound it hand and foot, cast it into the abyss. Now that abyss was narrow and deep, horrible and dark. And look, and then one of them, that's one of the 4 Malachim, one of the 4 white ones, righteous ones, drew a sword, and look what he did, and gave it to those elephants and camels and asses. Remember, the elephants and camels and asses represents the seed of the fallen. Then they began to kill each other, smite each other, and the whole earth quaked because of them. Look what Revelation says, y'all. The fiery red horse went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take shalom from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword. You see this? Look at it. I'm going to read it again. Man, you can't make this. This is crazy. And one of them drew a sword and gave it to those elephants and camels and asses. And we know that represents the seed of the fallen and the beasts of the field, which are the other nations. Those who are not of the Kodesh seed, in other words. And they began to kill each other, smite each other. The whole earth quaked because of them. And I was beholding in the vision, one of those 4 who had come forth stoned them from the Shamaim and gathered and took all the great stars, whose privy members were like those of horses, bound them all hand and foot, and cast them into the abyss of the Eretz. When he opened the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd living creature say, come and see. So I looked, and behold, a black horse. He who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, quart of wheat for a denarius, 3 quarts of barley for a denarius. Do not harm the oil and the wine. When he opened the 4th seal, heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, come and see. I looked, and behold, a pale horse. The name of him who sat on it was Death, and Sheol followed with him. So Sheol is associated with the abyss, y'all. That's the hollow parts of the earth, Sheol, or Hades, it'll say in English. It's really, Hebraically, the word is Sheol. Death and Sheol followed with them, and power was given to them over a 4th of the Eretz to kill with the sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth. When he opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of Eluah, for the testimony which they held. They cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Yahuwah, Kodesh and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? Man. There goes the color white. Then a white robe was given to each of them, and it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer till the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who would be killed as they were was completed. And we're going to see that here shortly as well. But it's a whole lot with this, but we'll stop there for now. Let's keep going on Enoch. All right. Now we're in chapter 89, okay? It says, and one of those 4 went to that white bull and instructed him in a secret without his being terrified. He was born a bull and became a man and built for himself a great vessel and dwelt thereon. And 3 bulls dwelt with him in that vessel, and they were covered in. So we know what that vessel is. That's the ark. Now it's going into Noah's ark. So you had all this calamity that happened on the earth. And then now you see the situation that's happening with Noah. and Noah's Ark, because Noah was like another Adam. You see, that's why he was characterized as a white bull, like Adam, or a white cow. He was born a bull and became a man, built for himself a great vessel. Okay, and one of those four went to that white bull and instructed him in a secret, without his being terrified. He was born a bull and became a man, built for himself a great vessel, and dwelt thereon. And 3 bulls dwelt with him in that vessel, and they were covered in. Those 3 bulls were who? That's Ham, Shem, and Japheth, y'all. That's Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Those are the 3 who are used to replenish the earth with. Okay? The seed of Noah, of the Kodesh seed of Seth, of Adam and Seth. We saw the lineage in Genesis chapter 5. So then again, I raised my eyes toward the Shamaim and saw a lofty roof with 7 water torrents thereon, and those torrents flowed with much water into an enclosure. And I saw again, and behold, fountains were opened on the surface of that great enclosure, and that water began to swell and rise upon the surface. And I saw that enclosure till all the surface was covered with water, and the water, the darkness and mist increased upon it. Man. So things are being reverted. That's very significant that it said, and the water, the darkness, and mist increased up on it. That's a huge deal, because that's showing that things went back how it was in Genesis 1, okay? And this is what I'm talking about. Genesis 1, things went back to the beginning, after the beginning. It says, in the beginning, the Lord created the Shamaim and the Eretz, but then it says, look, the earth was tohu vabohu, without form and void. And darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Ruach of Eluah was hovering over the face of the water. So it went back to that. You see what I'm saying? That's why I submitted said, and the water, the darkness, and mist increased up on it. And as I looked at the height of that water had risen above the height of that enclosure and was streaming over that enclosure, and it stood upon the Eretz. And all the cattle of that enclosure were gathered together until I saw how they sank and were swallowed up and perished in that water. So this is Noah's flood. But that vessel floated on the water, while all the oxen and elephants and camels and asses sank to the bottom with all the animals, so that I could no longer see them, and they were not able to escape, but perished and sank into the depths. They sank into the abyss, y'all. And again, I saw in the vision till those water torrents were removed from that high roof, and the chasms of the earth were leveled up, and other abysses were opened. Then the water began to run down into these till the earth became visible. But that vessel settled on the Eretz, and the darkness retired, and light appeared. So now light appeared. The darkness retired and light appeared. So it's like creation happening all over again. That's why Noah was characterized as being a white cow, because Noah was another Adam. Noah was chosen to be Adam again, in a sense. Everything was starting all over with him. He was in the image and likeness of Adam, or Adam. And look at this. It says, but the water began to run down into these till the earth became visible, but the vessel settled on their rest, and the darkness retired, and light appeared. This goes back to Genesis 1. It says darkness. In verse 2, it says the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. What did Yahuwah do about that? It says the Ruach of Eluah was hovering over the face of the waters. Then Eluah said, what? Let there be light. And there was light. Okay. Then it says, and Eluah saw the light, that it was through. And what did the light do? The light divided the light. Eluah divided the light from the darkness. And that goes in. That's similar to the language being spoken here. Very similar, because it says the water began to run down in the vessels, the darkness retired, and light appeared. It's like a creation week happening all over again. But that white bull, which had become a man, came out of that vessel. That's Noach. And the 3 bulls with him. That's Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And one of those three was white like that bull. So this is showing you that it was only one out of those three sons that were like Adam, that were Kodesh. We know who that was. That was Shem, the chosen seed from Noah's children. Y'all following him? All right. One of those three was white like that bull. One of those three were actually in the image and a true duplication of Noah, Laban, the hearts. Oh, yeah, I was supposed to pull that up too. Laban, the hearts of the son. Laban, Leb, and then Ben. Okay. I'll show y'all the Hebrew real quick. I meant to show that earlier. But that's H 3836. I'm sorry. H 3837 or 3836. Either or. It's the same word. All right, let me pull it up so y'all can see this. Oh, man. This mother tripping. Okay, there we go. H 3837. We'll go to that one. All right, just to show y'all in Hebrew. All right, that's the word Laban. That's the Hebrew word for white. You see Leb, the first two letters, it goes from right to left when you're dealing with Hebrew. That's Lamed Ben Leb. That's the Hebrew word for heart. And then the second is Bet Nun, Ben, Laban, or Laban. It means white, as you see here. But it also, it means a lot of other stuff like purity, clean. And we can look at that here if you go and look at H 3836. It means white, but figuratively it means like pure, things like that. Thought it would show that here. But nevertheless, we know that figuratively, that's what white means when you look at Hebraically. So, but the point is, it's about the heart, Leb, of the sons. The heart of the sons. The heart of the sons. The reason why that's significant, y'all, is because what we're seeing here is that the ones that were white, they were the sons that mimicked the father. They were duplications of the father in this dream, in these visions. Okay. All right. One was black and that white bull departed from them. Let's see. And the three bulls with him, that's Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And it says, and one of those three was white like that bull. So one of those three was like Noah. He was like Adam. That was Shem. And of them was red, and of of them was red as blood and one black. And that white bull departed from them. Okay. And then, okay, now we're getting in, we keep going. And they began to bring forth beasts of the field and birds, so that there arose different genera: lions, tigers, wolves, dogs, hyenas, wild boars, foxes, squirrels, swines, falcons, vultures, kites, eagles, and ravens. And among them was born a white bull. Okay. So now we see that after Ham, Shem, and Japheth came all the nations, all these different types, okay? But among all of that came another white bull, one that was like Adam, one that was like who? Noah. You see what I'm saying? One who was righteous. That's the concept of white. Laban, whose heart, the heart of the son, his heart was after the father. It's about turning the hearts of the fathers after the sons, and the hearts of the sons after the fathers. Laban, white. That's the concept of the white bull in these dreams. Verse 11, and they began to bite one another, but that white bull which was born amongst them begat a wild ass, and the white bull with it. So who do y'all think this white bull is? I wonder if anybody's following. I'm going to give I just want to see if y'all really can understand what I'm trying to say here, what's being brought out. Does anybody know who this white bull is right here? You had all the nations, right? All the animals came forth from Ham, Shem, and Japheth, all the different nations, all these different people groups. But among them was born a white bull. Who was that, y'all? Who is that? Here's the hint. And they began to bite one another. That's referring to all the different animals and the different people groups. But that white bull which was born amongst them begat a wild ass, and a white bull with it. And the wild asses multiply. Who is this type? This is like right in the scriptures. I'm gonna give y'all about 20 seconds. Who's this white bull that was born in the midst of all these different animals, all these different other people groups? Is what these animals represented, all these different nations and bloodlines. Okay, but somehow in the midst of that, a white bull came forth. Someone who was like Noah, who was righteous like Adam. Come on, y'all. Somebody got to know. Come on. Who was this white bull, y'all? Oh, man. I'll give y'all about 10 more seconds. Come on, y'all. Who's the white bull? Come on. All right. Azariah said Isaac, Esau, and Yaakov. That's close. Oh man, I'm gonna give it away. But yeah, that's not it though. That's not yet. That's not it. Come on, y'all. That's a good answer though. Thub answer. I know Malaki Ahilo. I don't let bull throw you because it's really, it's really more probably like cow. All right, Misty LW Ringo got the answer. Hallelujah. Y'all worrying me for a second. Isaiah Yasharal got it right. All praise to the Most High. No, it's not Yahusha, Yirmiyahu, and Shamayahu, not Yahusha. This is referring to Abraham. This is referring to Abraham, y'all. This is referring to Abraham. It's not Yahusha, S. McCorkle. This is referring to Abraham. So let's look at it. I'll show y'all to kind of prove it. Oh, man. How did that happen? Okay, we back connected. All right. All right. So this is referring to Abraham, y'all. So remember that first it went into Noah, right? Then it went into the three bulls that Noah had, which was Ham, Shem, and Japheth, right? Then it said, but out of the three, there was one that was a white bull, that was Shem. There was one that was righteous, like Noah. And they all started having children. And all these children actually were these other kinds. There was all these beasts, okay? Then it said, but amongst all these descendants was another white bull brought forth. That's Abraham, y'all. That's Abraham. And here's the proof. It said in verse 11, and they began to bite one another, but that white bull which was born amongst them begat a wild ass and a white bull with it. Now let's look at Torah. Let's look what this says when Abraham had children. Okay, look what it says. Bereshit chapter 16. Let's start with like verse 10. So Abraham had two sons. One was named Ishmael and one was named Isaac, remember? And look what it says about Ishmael. He said, he shall be a wild man. His hand shall be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. Yeah, that's let me do the King James to make it clearer on that. Let me do the King James. Bereshit 16:12. Oh man, I thought it was supposed to say a wild ass. Let me see why. Bereshit 16:12. Yeah, I think they kind of yeah, so it's based on the version you're looking at, but if you look at like some of these other versions, they'll say some of the versions will say he shall be a wild like ass or a wild donkey of a man. And just to show y'all, if y'all just go to like I only have a couple versions in here. I had to show y'all I'm on the Blue Letter Bible. But if you see right here in verse 12, it says, this son of yours will be a wild man, as untamed as a wild donkey. That's what it says in the New Living Translation. If you go some of the other translations, it'll, kind of, see what it says, do it, choose, and says, I'm just curious. It just says he shall be a wild man. So yeah, it's probably just a wild man, but nevertheless, it still holds its weight surrounding this concept here that he'll be a wild person. He'll be like a wild donkey. He'll be wild. That's Ishmael. That was the son of Abraham. You see what I'm saying? Then you had Ishmael. Then you had Isaac. Though was not like that. Isaac was Kodesh. So it talks about, and they began to bite one another. But that white bull, which was born amongst them, that's Abraham, begat a wild ass and a white bull. So the wild ass was Ishmael, right? Which you can see in some of the versions, it literally says that. And then the white bull with it, that was Isaac, right? And it says, and the wild asses multiplied. But that bull which was born from him begat a black wild boar and a white sheep. All right, now we keep going. See, who's the black wild boar and the white sheep? So it says, but that bull which was born from him, it's talking about the white bull, right? It's not talking about the ass. This is talking about Isaac. From him begat a black wild boar and a white sheep. That's Jacob and Esau, right? That's Jacob and Esau. And the former begat many boars, but that sheep begat 12 sheep. Because we know that Jacob did what? He had the 12 tribes, right? So the white sheep and the former begat many boars, but that sheep begat 12 sheep. That's who made the 12 tribes. So that's how you know this is talking about Yaakov. And when those 12 sheep had grown, they gave up one of them to the asses. Oh, man. And those asses again gave up that sheep to the wolves. And that sheep grew up among the wolves. Man. And Yahuwah brought the 11 sheep to live with it and to pasture with it. So Yahuwah brought the 11 sheep to live with it and to pasture with it. So maybe that means that Yahuwah was dwelling with them in a sense, these 11 sheep among the wolves, and they multiplied and became many flocks of sheep. And the wolves began to fear them. So now the other nations began to fear the sheep because they began to multiply. That sounding. Is this sounding sounding familiar? Because this is referring to when the children of Israel were in Mitzrayim. They were amongst wolves. They multiplied and became many flocks of sheep, and the wolves began to fear them, and they oppressed them until they destroyed their little ones. This is what happened in Egypt. And they cast their young into a river of much water. They cast our children into the Nile. We know that. But those sheep began to cry out loud on account of their little ones, and to complain unto their Adonai, or unto Yahuwah. And the sheep which had been saved from the wolves fled and escaped to the wild asses. Okay. So now you had this sheep who escaped to the wild asses. So that's Moshe. He escaped out there and he was in the wilderness, and he was up there with some of the other seed of Abraham. And I saw the sheep, how they lamented and cried and besought Yahuwah with all their might, till Yahuwah of the sheep descended at the voice of the sheep from a lofty abode, and came to them and pastured them. Man. And he called that sheep which had escaped the wolves, that's Moshe, and spake with it concerning the wolves, that it should admonish them not to touch the sheep. Wow. And the sheep went to the wolves according to the word of Yahuwah. And another sheep met it and went with it. So that's, who's that? That's Abraham. Who's the other sheep that met it and went with it? That was Aharon, y'all. That's Moshe and Aharon. And the two went and entered together into the assembly of those wolves, and spake with them and admonished them not to touch the sheep from henceforth. And thereupon I saw the wolves, and how they oppressed the sheep exceedingly with all their power. And the sheep cried aloud. Yeah, y'all got it. Yeah, Yirmiyahu Shama Yahu on it. I see Azar Yasharah got it. How that's Mitzrayim. And Shishon, no, it's not specifically talking about Yahusha. But, I can see why, I can definitely see that. But this is the history of Yasharal, of our people. This is the history of our nation being explained through these dreams. And how they oppressed the sheep exceedingly with all their power, and the sheep cried aloud. And Yahuwah came to the sheep and they began to smite those wolves. Oh, snap. And the wolves began to make lamentation, but the sheep became quiet and forthwith ceased to cry out. And I saw the sheep till they departed from amongst the wolves. But the eyes of the wolves were blinded, and those wolves departed in pursuit of the sheep with all their power. That's when Yahuwah hardened the hearts of Pharaoh. He hardened the hearts of the people. And Yahuwah of the sheep went with them as their leader, and all his sheep followed him. And his face was dazzling and glorious and terrible to behold. But the wolves began to pursue those sheep till they reached a sea of water. We know this story, right? And that sea was divided, and the water stood on this side and on that before their face. We talked about this on Shabbat. That's the Hebrew word for unleavened. So the Hebrew word for unleavened bread and chametz. It's about a wall of water. Y'all look at this. Exodus 12:8. So, because what we know is that when the children of Israel left Mitzrayim, when the children of Israel left Egypt or Mitzrayim, that was on Pesach. Yahuwah killed all the firstborn of Egypt and passed over the children of Israel on Passover. That's why it's called Passover, because the destroyer passed over those who have the blood of the lamb on the doorposts. You see what I'm saying? So, with that being said, it's this concept where that happened on, well, not a concept, that's just what happened. That happened on Passover. So, we know that the next day after Passover is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The children of Israel, that's when they moved through the dry ground, moved through the waters. And the Hebrew word from unleavened bread actually is about a wall of water. It's very interesting, you know. It's just very, very or the Hebrew word for 11, not unleavened bread, but the Hebrew word for 11, chametz. That's the Hebrew word for 11, chametz. Let's see. So that would be chapter verse 15. Yeah. So that's the Hebrew word for 11. It's chametz. But as you see, it's a het, mem, sadi. And you see there that it's a wall of water. It's a wall of water. Basically, the sadi is a snare or a trap. So a way you can look at it is it's a wall of water set apart is like a trap. Set apart is like a stronghold in a sense. And that's what happened on the first Feast of Unleavened Bread in Torah. Yahuwah made a wall of water. He made a wall of water. He made a wall with the seas on, and then it became a snare or a trap to the Egyptians, the Mitzrites, the Egyptians. Why I submit? Because they had leaven in them. They were a leavened people, not unleavened. They had leaven. They were puffed up. They were a leavened people. And the children of Yasharah were unleavened. There were no leaven in them. They were moving right at this time. You see what I'm saying? And so though if you got leaven in you, you're going to be cut off from the people. So they were cut off by the waters. All right. That's just some stuff we was talking about yesterday. I mean, on last Shabbat. But and that sea was divided, and the water stood on this side and on that side, and that before their face. That's the word for leaven, chametz, the breakdown, the Hebrew breakdown, a wall of water. And Yahuwah led them and placed himself between them and the wolves. And as those wolves did not yet see the sheep, they proceeded into the midst of that sea, and the wolves followed the sheep. And those wolves ran after them into that sea. And when they saw Yahuwah of the sheep, they turned to flee before his face, but that sea gathered itself together and became as it had been created. And the water swelled and rose till it covered those wolves. And I saw till all the wolves who pursued those sheep perished and were drowned. So the same thing that happened with Noah and the flood, when Yahuwah drowned all the people of the other nations, all the fallen ones in the waters. Yahuwah did the same thing again to the Mitzrites when they came against Yahuwah's people, when they tried to pursue them. So it's a very similar thing. Again, this wasn't a worldwide flood, but it's still similar how Yahuwah destroyed the Mitzrites with the water, the nations who were the enemies of Yahuwah's people. And I saw till all the wolves who pursued those sheep perished and were drowned. But the sheep escaped from that water and went forth into a wilderness where there was no water and no grass. Now that's interesting to me. That's a very interesting thing to me, because I know there's some thoughts, there's some ideologies out there, like and this I'm not going, I'm not saying anything solidified, but Enoch, this does go against, there's some people who believe that the wilderness was in the Central Africa, like the Congo, things like that. There's people who hold to that it was not in the desert. But man, look, at least this passage in Enoch would be a conflict with that. You know what I'm saying? Hey, look, it's just interesting. Nevertheless, I'm not saying anything as far as solidified, but this does conflict with that. This gives an issue with that. The general idea is that the wilderness was in the desert. For right now, that's pretty much where I'm at on it. I believe most likely the wilderness was in the desert. Because Yahuwah had to give them everything. Yahuwah had to rain manna down from the Eretz every day. Yahuwah had to get them everything. Had to get them water. When Yahuwah didn't get them water from the rock, they literally were scared they were about to die, because there was literally no water nowhere around there. So that's usually giving you a sign that that's the desert. You know what I'm saying? Because back then, y'all people, it ain't like today. We can't drink from the rivers and streams today because the nations polluted all the waterways so bad that you don't have that ability. But back then, it was anywhere you can drink from the freshwater rivers and streams. Our people did that. So if it was in Central Africa during that time, Congo, one of the most fruitful areas of the earth. You got rainforests out there. You got, I don't know if they call it rainforest, but man, you got plush forests and rivers, and you got freshwater water bodies. The Congo, the jungle. When you read Torah, I don't see it. I don't see how that would be in a place that as fruitful as the Congo. Because they were so in need. They had to lean on Yahuwah for everything, y'all, while they were in the wilderness. It was not a fruitful area like that where they was in the wilderness at. But I just thought that was something just to key to think about, or something to look at. All right. But nevertheless, but the sheep escaped from that water and went forth into a wilderness where there was no water and no grass, y'all. That's what Enoch said. That's what it's saying in the book of Enoch. There wasn't even no grass out there. That means it was a desert. No grass? Yeah, that means you're talking about the straight up desert. If you don't even got grass, you out there in the dirt, y'all. The middle of nowhere, the wilderness. And they began to open their eyes and to see, and I saw Yahuwah of the sheep pasturing them and giving them water and grass, and that sheep going and leading them, and that sheep going and leading them. So that's probably Moshe. That sheep that was going and leading was probably Moshe. And that sheep ascended to the summit of that lofty rock. So that's when Moshe went up on Sinai, probably right here. And Yahuwah of the sheep sent it to them. And after that I saw Yahuwah of the sheep who stood before them, and his appearance was great and terrible and majestic. And all those sheep saw him and were afraid before his face. And they all feared and trembled because of him. And they cried to that sheep with them, which was amongst them, we are not able to stand before Yahuwah, before our Adon, or to behold him. And that sheep which led them again ascended to the summit of that rock, but the sheep began to be blinded and to wander. But the sheep began to be blinded and to wander from the way which he had showed them. So now that's when, Moshe went up on Sinai the second time. And then that's when the golden calf incident happened. All those things happened, Well, that was the first time he went up, though. But that happened in Torah. The children of Israel literally said they didn't want to deal with Yahuwah. They were too afraid. That literally happened. They told Moshe that. But that sheep was not thereof, and Yahuwah of the sheep was wrathful exceedingly against them. And that sheep discovered it and went down from the summit of the rock and came to the sheep and found the greatest part of them blinded and fallen away. That's probably the golden calf incident right here. And when they saw it, they feared and trembled at its presence and desired to return to their folds. And that sheep took other sheep with it and came to those sheep which had fallen away and began to slay them. That literally happened during the golden calf incident. That's when the Levites came and they said, we on Yahuwah's side. And Moshe gave them a sword, said everyone, kill their brother and things like that. And the sheep feared its presence, and thus that sheep brought back those sheep that had fallen away, and they returned to their folds. And I saw in this vision till that sheep became a man and built a house for Yahuwah of the sheep and placed all the sheep in that house. So that was the tabernacle. Moshe built the tabernacle. And I saw till this sheep which had met that sheep which led them fell asleep. And I saw till all the great sheep perished, and little ones arose in their place, and they came to a pasture and approached the stream of water. Okay, so now Moshe passed away. Then you had the other ones come up after Moshe. And now, they're basically coming to the promised land. That's what happened with Joshua, son of Nun, or Yahushua, son of Nun, came probably to the stream of water. I believe that was the Jordan, and crossed over into the promised land in the book of Yahushua, or the book of Joshua. Verse 38. Then that sheep, their leader, which had become a man, withdrew from them and fell asleep. And all the sheep sought it and cried over it with a great crying. And I saw till they left off crying for that sheep and crossed that stream of water. And there arose the two sheep as leaders in the place of those which had led them and fallen asleep. And I saw till the sheep came to a through place and a pleasant and glorious land. And I saw till those sheep were satisfied, and that house stood amongst them in the pleasant land. And sometimes their eyes were open, and sometimes blinded, till another sheep arose and led them and brought them all back, and their eyes were open. So this is referring to the times of the judges. After Yahushua, son of Nun, passed away, then you had all the other generation came up, and then you had the time of the judges. They were in the promised land, but the children of Israel would fall off, and then they would, Yahuwah would raise up a leader, a judge, and they would do through, they would fall off again, and they'll cry out. Yahuwah would raise up a judge amongst them to get them off of the oppressor. And you had this cycle that happened through at the times of the judges. So it says, verse 42, and the dogs and the foxes and the wild boars began to devour those sheep, till Yahuwah of the sheep raised up another sheep, a ram from their midst, which led them. And that ram began to butt on either side those dogs, foxes, and wild boars, till he had destroyed them all. And that sheep whose eyes were open saw that ram, which was amongst the sheep, till it forsook its kavod, and began to butt those sheep, and trampled upon them, and behaved itself unseemly. And Yahuwah of the sheep sent the lamb to another lamb, and raised it to being a ram and leader of the sheep, instead of that ram which had forsaken its kavod. So you had leaders that were through, then you had other leaders that were rose up that were not through. That was the time of the judges. And it went to it and spake to it alone and raised it to being a ram and made it the prince and leader of the sheep. But during all these things, those dogs oppressed the sheep. And the first ram pursued that second ram, and that second ram arose and fled before it. Oh man, this sounds like that's talking about David and Saul, King David and Saul, King Saul. And I saw till those dogs pulled down the first ram, and that second ram arose and led the little sheep. Yeah, that sounds like it's talking King David, because King Saul was killed by the nations. They went to war against, I think it was the Philistines. He got pierced through with an arrow. Verse 49, and those sheep grew and multiplied, but all the dogs and foxes and wild boars feared and fled before it. And that ram butted and killed the wild beasts, and those wild beasts had no longer any power among the sheep, and robbed them no more of aught. And that ram begat many sheep and fell asleep. So that's King David. Because King David had dominion over the nations. I'm talking about went to war against all the nations and subdued all the nations around Yasharal. Then it says, and that ram begat many sheep and fell asleep, and a little sheep became ram in its stead and became prince and leader of those sheep. And we know that's King Solomon. And that house became great and broad, and it was built for those sheep. And a tower lofty and great was built on the house for Yahuwah of the sheep. And that house was low, but the tower was elevated and lofty. So y'all know this is definitely King Solomon, because we know that King Solomon was the one that built the temple. Y'all remember it was King Solomon who built the temple, so much so that it's historically called Solomon's Temple. It was elevated and lofty, and the Yahuwah of the sheep stood on that tower, and they offered a full table before him. Hallelujah. That's deep. Yeah, that's King Solomon. And again, I saw those sheep that they again erred and went many ways and forsook that their house, and Yahuwah of the sheep called some from amongst the sheep and sent them to the sheep. But the sheep began to slay them. And one of them was, okay, I think I'm getting it. And again, I saw those sheep that they again erred and went many ways and forsook that their house, and Yahuwah of the sheep called some from amongst the sheep. That's the prophets, y'all. And sent them to the sheep. But the sheep began to slay them. Yeah, that's the prophets, y'all. Y'all already know that's the prophets. The sheep began to slay them. And one of them was saved and was not slain, and it sped away and cried aloud over the sheep. And they sought to slay it. But Yahuwah of the sheep saved it from the sheep and brought it up to me and caused it to dwell there. And many other sheep he sent to those sheep to testify. Oh, that's referring to Elijah. But then that would be out of order, because Elijah was before King David and King Solomon, though. So I wonder who this is referring to. But Yahuwah of the sheep saved it from the sheep and brought it up to me and caused it to dwell there. Because I know Elijah went up in a whirlwind to the Most High. Because he said it brought it up to me. That's Enoch. So it seemed like this really sounds like Elijah. Oh, yeah, maybe this is Yahusha. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Maybe this is Yahushua HaMashiach. It says, and one of them was saved and was not slain, and it sped away and cried aloud over the sheep. And they sought to slay it, but Yahuwah of the sheep saved it from the sheep and brought it up to me and caused it to dwell there. Yeah. So maybe that's Yahushua HaMashiach, if it's going in order. But we'll keep going. Even Oriah, I don't think this talking about Noah because we already went through Noah. So it seems very closely with Elijah. But it could be Yahushua Mashiach. But the thing about Yahushua is that you can argue that he was killed, he was crucified. But you can also argue to say, but technically, since he resurrected, then he was saved from that. So he was not killed. He was crucified, but he did not die because he resurrected. So, Bakir Sargon, I was thinking that it might not be Elijah because it seems that this is moving in order. You see what I'm saying? This definitely went through King David and Solomon in the previous verses. So Elijah was before King David and King Solomon, if I remember right. Historically, Elijah was moving and doing his ministry before King David and King Solomon. So if this is moving in order, it would have to be somebody after King David and King Solomon because it just went through King David and King Solomon. That's basically what I'm referring to, why I'm thinking of somebody else. Maybe Yahushua Mashiach or something like that. Verse 53, and many other sheep he sent to those sheep to testify unto them and lament. Oh, okay. He said Elijah was after King David. Okay, I got to look it up. I can't remember. I thought it was before. Because, man, you might be right, though. I'm trying to think. Oh, snap. I'm tripping. Oh, you're right, Bakir Sargon. I don't know what I'm thinking. No, you're right. He was after. Oh, that's Elijah. Oh, Todah. So that meant, okay. Todah Rabbah. That's definitely Elijah. He was after them. Elijah is in the Kings. He's in the Kings. He's not in the Judges. I don't know why I was thinking Elijah was in the time of the Judges. But no, Elijah was of the northern kingdom. He was dealing with King Ahab and him. That was way after King David. Oh, snap. Yeah, Kum Rakam Yahoo. Todah Rabbah, y'all. Todah Rabbah. This is definitely Elijah. Because he went up in a whirlwind. So he went up, because Enoch said he went up to Enoch. He went up to him. So this is definitely Elijah. Wow. Because Elijah, he didn't really die either. It was like Enoch. So what this is showing is that it was similar situation with Enoch. See, Enoch was living in a time where there was the fallen ones, the seed of the fallen, where they were oppressing the Kodesh seed. They were killing them left and right. There was this major oppression. And we talked about this in the first parts of Enoch. We're on 15 now, but like if you look at part like 1 and 2, we're talking about this. Yahuwah called up Enoch and saved him from that, from getting killed. And so it seems like the Most High did something similar with Eliyahu or Elijah, because that's during the days of Jezebel. They had all them prophets. They was after Elijah, man. They was after Elijah. But yeah, Todah, y'all. Todah Rabbah. Okay. Todah Rabbah. All right, verse 52. And one of them was saved and was not slain, and sped away and cried aloud over the sheep. And they sought to slay it. But Yahuwah of the sheep saved it from the sheep, and brought it up to me, and caused it to dwell there. And many other sheep he sent to those sheep, to testify unto them, and lament over them. And after that I saw that when they forsook the house of Yahuwah and his tower, that's this time at the temple, they fell away entirely, and their eyes were blinded. And I saw Yahuwah of the sheep, how he wrought much slaughter amongst them in their herds, until those sheep invited that slaughter and betrayed his place. And he gave them over into the hands of the lions and tigers and wolves and hyenas, and into the hand of the foxes, and to all the wild beasts. And those wild beasts began to tear in pieces those sheep. So this is when the nations just, y'all know the history. The nations just, wreaked havoc on Yasharal. And I saw that he forsook that their house and their tower, and gave them all into the hand of the lions. to tear and devour them into the hand of all the wild beasts. And I began to cry aloud with all my power, and to appeal to Yahuwah of the sheep, and to represent to him in regard to the sheep, that they were devoured by all the wild beasts. But he remained unmoved, though he saw it, and rejoiced that they were devoured and swallowed and robbed, and left them to be devoured in the hand of all the beasts. And he called 70 shepherds. All right, that's interesting. And cast those sheep to them, that they might pasture them. All right, so we know, so these shepherds are wicked shepherds, okay? These aren't righteous shepherds. So the scriptures talks about the Thub shepherds, but then you also have the evil or the wicked shepherds. These 70 shepherds are not Thub shepherds. These 70 shepherds represent, I submit, the nations. Remember, there's 70 nations. Biblically, there's 70 nations in the world. Now, I know if we look in the world today, there's more nations than that. There's more countries than that. But you got to understand that the biblical nations is nationality, okay? And the biblical nations, there's 70 of them. So you have the same nations cover multiple territories. You have, all those different things going on like that that's discombobulated and mixed up. But when you're talking about nationalities, nations, it's 70 according to the scriptures. The 70, okay? You got some nations, according to the scriptures, that don't have a country like us, and there's many others, there's several others I'll submit. But so the 70 shepherds represent the other nations, okay? And these 70 shepherds are probably given over to the fallen Malachim, because we know the fallen Malachims, they ended up ruling over these other nations. These other nations were submitted to the fallen ones. They were worshiping these fallen Malachim, worshiping these other Aluas and these different things of the fallen Malachim. So that's probably what made them so wicked, because they were given over to the fallen ones, the other nations. They were given over to the marine kingdom. So you got these 70 shepherds, okay? Let's look at this. I'm going to go back right here. It says, verse 59, he called 70 shepherds and cast those sheep to them, that they might pasture them. And he spake to the shepherds and their companions, let each individual of your pasture the sheep henceforward, and everything that I shall command you, that do ye. Let each individual of you pasture the sheep henceforward. Okay, I get it now. Let each individual of you pasture the sheep henceforward, and everything that I shall command you, that do ye. In other words, Yahuwah is giving these shepherds a commandment. Yeah, I'm going to give these people over to y'all, but do everything that I command you to do. Verse 60, and I will deliver them over unto you, duly numbered, and tell you which of them are to be destroyed, and them destroy ye. I'm going to tell you which of them to kill, and you can kill them. You can destroy them. Yeah. This is when, yes, that's exactly what this is. This is when we were given over to the other nations. This is probably about when Babylon had destroyed, Babylonian captivity. Babylon had destroyed the temple, and then the children of Israel were scattered, y'all. They were given over to the nations. All right. And he gave over unto them those sheep, and he called another and spake unto him, observe and mark everything that the shepherds will do to those sheep, for they will destroy more of them than I have commanded them. Man. And every excess and the destruction which will be wrought through the shepherds, record, namely, how many they destroy according to my command, and how many according to their own caprice. Record against every individual shepherd all the destruction he effects, and read out before me by number how many they destroy and how many they deliver over for destruction, that I may have this as a testimony against them, and know every deed of the shepherds, that I may comprehend and see what they do, whether or not they abide by my command which I have commanded them. But they shall not know it, and thou shalt not declare it to them, nor admonish them, but only record against each individual all the destruction which the shepherds effect each in his time, and lay it all before me. Y'all, this is huge. This is why the nations are going to be judged. Even though Yahuwah gave us over to the nations in captivity, the nations did way more than they were supposed to us. There was only so much that they were supposed to do to us, y'all, as far as what they were supposed to do to us while we were in captivity. They far exceeded their boundaries that Yahuwah gave to them. They went past that. This is actually talked about in the book of Zechariah. I'm trying to remember. I think it's like chapter 1. The nations did too much. Yeah, it's chapter 1. Look at this. Zechariah chapter 1. Zechariah chapter 1 verse 14. It says, so the Malak that communed with me said unto me, cry thou, saying, let me do New King James, a little easier to read. So the Malak who spoke with me said to me, proclaim, saying, thus says Yahuwah Sabaoth, I am zealous for Yerushalayim and for Zion with great zeal. Look what it says. I am exceedingly angry with the nations at ease. For I was a little angry, and they helped, but with evil intent. Yeah. Let me see how that's where. Yeah, so the King James kind of says it a little bit better. It says, I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction. But yeah, when you look at it closely, I won't go too deep in it. But right now, if you look at that closely in Zechariah 1, that verse where it says, but I helped forward the affliction, you can also look at it. What it was saying was that Yahuwah was a little displeased, but they went overboard with it. They did more than they were supposed to do. That's why he said he was displeased with the heathen. But nevertheless, it's very clear here in the book of Enoch. So, but we're almost done. Let's wrap it up. So it says, verse 65, and I saw to those shepherds pastured in their season, and they began to slay and to destroy more than they were bidden. There it goes. And they delivered those sheep into the hand of the lions. Let me see if I can. Here it goes. Y'all look at this. This makes it. This is the New King James. I mean, this is the NIV. I want y'all to see. Hey, y'all don't be. Listen, this is giving you a lot better. A lot more clearer translation though. At least this on this verse, Zechariah 1 verse 15. Look what it says here. It says, and I am very angry with the nations that feel secure. I was only a little angry, but they went too far with the punishment. There we go. So that's what I want. That's a more clearer understanding of what that's saying. This is why Yahuwah is judging the nations. It's more than it because they put us in a captivity. Y'all got to understand, Yahuwah giving us over to captivity under these nations because of what we did. We in captivity because of our disobedience, not because of the nations. It's because of us. We are why we are in captivity. You can't blame the heathen for us being in captivity. You just can't. Ain't no way you can read the scriptures and blame the nations for us being in captivity. You know what I'm saying? That's like going out, stealing from the mall. You went and stole five vehicles from the car lot. Then you committed murder and all that. And the police hemmed you up and put you in prison. And you blaming the police for going to prison, and not that you just went and committed all those things against the law. All those that you broke all those laws. You see what I'm saying? That's crazy when you think about that. That's wild, right? The other nations is jail, is prison, is Sheol, according to the scriptures. It's called Sheol, it's prison. And we ended up here because of us, because we broke all these different laws against Yahuwah. But what happened was the other nations, they went too far with the punishment. They crossed boundaries. There were boundaries Yahuwah said. Yahuwah told the leaders over these nations, which are the entities, it's these shepherds that were over these 70 shepherds. Yahuwah, they knew what to do. There were only specific things they were supposed boundaries that they were supposed to never cross. And Yahuwah knew they was going to do nothing but cross the boundaries. That's why the nations are going to be judged, y'all. That's not just stated in Enoch. That's also in the scriptures. That's why I just wanted to show y'all that's the scriptures support exactly what Enoch is bringing out here. I'll show it again. It's the NIV version, just because it's more clearer this verse than in King James. But the King James saying the same thing is just not as clear. But it says, chapter 1, verse 15, and I am very angry with the nations that feel secure. I was only a little angry, but they went too far with the punishment. All right, all praise to the Most High. Let's keep going. We're almost done. It's a long chapter, but this is the last chapter. We're almost done. And the lions and tigers eat and devour the greater parts of those sheep. And the wild boars eat. We'll go back to 65. And I saw to those shepherds pastured in their season, and they began to slay and to destroy more than they were bidden. And they delivered those sheep into the hand of the lions. And the lions and the tigers eat and devoured the greater part of those sheep, and the wild boars eat along with them. And they burnt that tower and demolished that house. That's when the temple was destroyed, y'all. Babylon did that. And I became exceedingly sorrowful over that tower, because that house of the sheep was demolished. That was Solomon's temple. And afterwards I was unable to see if those sheep entered that house. And the shepherds and their associates delivered over those sheep to all the wild beasts to devour them. And the shepherds and their associates delivered over those sheep to all the wild beasts to devour them. And each one of them received in his time a definite number. It was written by the other in a book how many each one of them destroyed of them. And each one slew and destroyed many more than was prescribed. And I began to weep and lament on account of those sheep. And thus in the vision I saw that one who wrote, how he wrote down every one that was destroyed by those shepherds day by day, and carried up and laid down and showed actually the whole book to Yahuwah of the sheep, even everything that they had done, and all that each one of them had made away with, and all that they had given over to destruction. And the book was read before Yahuwah of the sheep, and he took the book from his hand and read it and sealed it and laid it down. Wow. And forthwith I saw how the shepherds pastured for 12 hours. And behold, 3 of those sheep turned back and came and entered and began to build up all that had fallen down of that house. All right. So now this is talking about this is talking about Zerubbabel and Yahusha. So this is again, this is like the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, which is interesting because I believe Zechariah was during this time. The prophet Zechariah. It was another prophet too that I can't think of right now. One of y'all may can remember. Was it Malachi or Micah? It was one of them. But nevertheless, and forthwith I saw how the shepherds pastured for 12 hours, and behold, 3 of those sheep turned back, and came and entered and began to build up all that had fallen down. So you had the 3 sheep probably was maybe. Man, was that Nehemiah? Yahusha, Zerubbabel. No, oh yeah, the 3 that came back, I believe is. Yeah, it's probably represented as Zerubbabel, Ezra, and Nehemiah are probably the 3. Probably Zerubbabel, Ezra, and Nehemiah. Oh, yeah, it was Haggai. Todah. Yeah, it was Haggai. That's the one I was thinking about, not Malachi. It was Haggai. Yeah. All right. And behold, 3 of those sheep turned back and came and entered and began to build up all that had fallen down of that house. Okay, so the 3 is probably Zerubbabel, Yahusha, and Nehemiah maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that. But the wild boars tried to hinder them, but they were not able. So we know that happened. If you read Ezra and Nehemiah, they were trying to build, and the nations were all around them trying to hinder them. But they were not able to stop them, because we know that the temple eventually was able to be built. Verse 73, and they began again to build as before, and they reared up that tower, and it was named the High Tower. And they began again to place a table before the tower, but all the bread on it was polluted and not pure. Man. So that's probably referring like to this table of showbread in a sense. But that goes back to when you read like the book of Ezekiel that talks about the defiled bread. And as touching all this, the eyes of those sheep were blinded so that they saw not, and the eyes of their shepherds likewise. And they delivered them in large numbers to their shepherds for destruction. And they trampled the sheep with their feet and devoured them. And Yahuwah of the sheep remained unmoved, till all the sheep were dispersed over the field and mingled with them, the beasts. And they, the shepherds, did not save them out of the hand of the beasts. And this one who wrote the book carried it up and showed it and read it before Yahuwah of the sheep, and implored him on their account, and besought him on their account, as he showed him all the doings of the shepherds, and gave testimony before him against all the shepherds. And he took the actual book and laid it down beside him and departed. Wow. Yeah, y'all, that was wild. So we'll continue, most high willing, next time. Let's see. Y'all got anything in particular? Any questions or anything? And if y'all have any questions, y'all can throw them in there right now. But yeah, it looks like y'all had got some through stuff on here. Azar Yasharal said, Yahuwah's foretelling is absolutely unmatched. Khan, that's real though. That's real. Raphael put in Yohalim or Jubilees 49:22. It says, "For ye celebrated this feast with haste when ye went forth from Mitzrayim till ye entered into the wilderness of Shur. For on the shore of the sea ye completed it." Man, that's it. Yeah. So it says it shows that they kept unleavened bread till they got to the sea. Khan. Yeah. Yeah, Khan. I get what you're saying. Azariah Yasharal said, yes, our people gonna complain in the desert. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? For real. Yeah, this stuff wild, Bakir Sargon. This stuff is wild. I haven't seen this like that either. Yeah, Ivan Juan Little, the 70 shepherds, the 70 nations. That's why, yeah, that represents these leaders over the nations being now, instead of Yahuwah shepherding over the people, because we wanted to be like the other nations. We wanted to move like them. Yahuwah made it to where now the other nations are shepherding over us and subduing us and oppressing us. That's what the captivity is all about. Absolutely. That's why in order to really move forward in the Most High, you have to come out of Babylon. You cannot have Babylon as your shepherd still, but think you're going to serve Yahuwah and has Yahuwah as your shepherd as well. It don't work like that. That's why the scriptures talk about how you cannot have two masters, you know. Yeah, Azariah, I said playing chess with the nations. Ivan Juan Little said that's the recompense Yahuwah will bring to the nations. That's it. Yeah, Azariah, they got all the receipts. For real. For real. Okay, you said the three houses. Ivan Juan Little said the three houses may mean the southern kingdom, Judah, Levi, Benjamin. The southern kingdom, Judah, Levi, Benjamin. Ah, okay. Okay, I get what you're saying. All right. All right. Was there any questions? I'll give it a little bit, about 20 seconds if y'all have any questions before we close. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to you. Shalom, shalom. Cody Selah, shalom and barakot to you. Shalom and blessings. 20 seconds. Any questions, y'all? Any questions about anything we covered or anything like that? Any questions? What y'all got? All right, y'all. Don't look like there's anything. Much ahava, y'all. Most High willing, we'll do this again next week. All praise to the Most High. And Lakam La Shalom.
Before you were born, I had a plan for you, to prosper and not to harm you. And even though you strayed, my love chased after you. With the life I gave, I paid a price for you. You weren't too far from my reach. For you, my eyes did see. And in my arms you'll find peace. Remain like a child and stay here with me. Come, ye children, hearken unto me. Let me teach you my ways. He said, come, ye children, hearken unto me. Will you obey, hear the Father speak? hear the Father speak.